Hello, and welcome back to the Girl Stop Talking podcast. Today, we are talking about why you deserve more than the bare minimum. Because although this can feel like a luxury, girl, this is actually the standard. Don't get it twisted. Before we dive into today's topic, I obviously need to give you guys a little update. If you have been following my journey over the last 10 days or so on Instagram and have been so intrigued by what I have been releasing and purging out of this bidet, I appreciate it. I want to recognize we have some new followers. So hello, if I've met you and you're just tuning in for the very first time, please make sure to, if you're not already, go subscribe on YouTube at Girl Stop Talking Podcast. It's the @ sign, Girl Stop Talking Podcast. And I'm just want to touch base a little bit on what has been going on the last 10 days for me. I found this cleanse from the Sanctuary Holistic Wellness about 2 years ago, and I started following them on Instagram. Completely fascinated by what people were posting from this cleanse and what was actually coming out of them. I truly think that this is like the esthetician in me. I find it so satisfying to watch pimple popping videos, to watch like pedicure videos, when someone's toes look really bad and they do the time lapse of them picking and getting the toe cheese and cleaning up the toe. I know it's disgusting, but for me, it's so satisfying. I enjoy it. I know it's fucking weird, but like I said, it's the Esty in me. So when I found this cleanse and I saw people documenting their journey through the 10 days and what comes out of their body, the amount of parasites and tapeworms and all the forms of worms that people are showing that they're picking out of the toilet. I know it's disgusting to think of looking at someone else's shit in a bowl. Wow, we're 2 minutes and 30 seconds in and here we go. However, I found it fascinating. It truly didn't even disgust me. I was just I have to do this. But I was low-key terrified. I was terrified because food is such a big, important thing in my life, and going through this wellness journey over the last 2 years that I have put myself in, it has been top tier thing that I think about all the time. And I'm hoping with the growth of these 10 days, some of that starts to get eliminated, because I learned I've started thinking about food a lot differently. That was the number one reason why I didn't do the cleanse for so long, was because how do I fast and not eat for 10 days? So I'm going to give you a little rundown. If you weren't following me, if you were, you're going to hear it again. I'm sure you've heard some of this already. It's a 10-day cleanse. It's fruit, organic fruit, plant-based liquids only. So that's basically fruit and protein shakes. This cleanse specifically hooks you up with everything you need. And they have a whole 75-page protocol that goes over the whole cleanse, what you can expect to see, how to take the products. They give you journal entries. They really, really set you up for success. And something that I'm waiting to hear back from is how long these products actually last, because you get these tinctures and they're condensed herbs. And I didn't even go through all of them. I think I'm almost halfway through. So basically this cleanse is just over $400, and realistically you have enough products to do it maybe 2 or 3 times, which they don't even market it that way. So little secret, I will have a code for you guys also. I'm just waiting for the response as of right now, but I'll put it in the show notes. So my code will get you 10% off. This is not an affiliate. I'm not getting paid for this. This is literally for the girls. Do you want to be a girl that poops, or do you want to be a bitch that shits? Because I want to be a bitch that shits. I am a bitch that is shitting. Okay. Okay. Anyways, going back to the food thing, it was not even hard for me to get onto this new diet. I felt satiated, I felt full, and it actually has me thinking about food a lot more different now. The food noise is gone. The cravings are gone. I don't have sugar cravings. I'm going to the bathroom regularly every day on my own without force. I have so much more energy that I didn't even realize I had energy. But what clicked for me was that 7 out of the 10 days, I didn't even have caffeine. I started my day, no caffeine, no thought in my mind. Obviously, I did get some headaches and stuff, so that's kind of what brought me back. And I was trying to wean myself, give myself enough caffeine to not have headaches, but still I feel like my thoughts have changed and they are not focused around food, like when's my next meal? What do I need to eat? How do I hit my goals? How do I lose the weight? All of that it's gone. I'm not thinking about it anymore. And just for that, I could honestly cry because I feel like over the last couple of years, that has been such a big part of my life and has led to a lot of over fixation or stress around, how do I hit the goals that I want to hit when I feel like it's not working for me. And so my goal my intentions going into this cleanse was, this is a full body reset, full mind and body reset. I just want to come out of this feeling more connected to myself. I want to come out of this feeling like releasing some of this pressure and overwhelm and stress that I hold in my body to try and hit these goals or beauty standards, if you will. And I really just want to understand my body more, cleanse it out, get everything that I can in the time that I have out, in hopes that when I continue my wellness journey after this, I see a change. I mean, the first 3 days, the amount of mucoid plaque that had come out of my body, it was toilet bowls full, okay? If I could have taken it all out and put it on a scale, so gross. I know, just bear with me. I probably lost, just in this plaque, 4 to 5 pounds. The first 3 days, I thought I was just passing bowel movements. It was all plaque, and I didn't realize that until the last day. And if you go back on my Instagram, day 3, I share what that looks like and explain what it is. So you can go check that out if you're interested. It does show the picture at the very end, so just trigger warning. Part of that, I say that to say, is having all this built up plaque. It's literal toxicity, decaying inside of your body. The smell, don't even get me started, is insane. Because of that, the number one thing that stuck with me, lack of nutrient absorption. The last 2 years, I have tremendously changed the way I eat and the food that I put into my body. I don't drink soda. I am basically dairy-free with the sprinkle of, cheese here and there. And I'm eating 80% whole foods. My biggest struggle is restaurant food and alcohol. But even in the last year, I have cut my alcohol consumption probably by 50%. And I still feel like I really struggled around hitting the goals that I want to hit. And when I was reading about all this plaque and how it can actually stop your body from absorbing nutrients, it all started clicking to me. I'm like, what if this is the reason? What I'm giving my body what it needs, but it's physically not able to absorb the proper nutrients that my gut needs to heal, to live, to hit my goals. So I'm really excited. I'm glad that I did it. I also was able to prove to myself that I can literally do anything I put my mind to. I can go 10 days without eating real food. And that is powerful. And I think that's what switched this mentality even more for me around food, is that I know I don't need the cravings that my brain is telling me I need. And it sounds so simple, but girl, that shit is hard. That's it. That was a long rant, a little intro, and I'm excited to get into this episode, okay? This is going to be for all my girlies that need that girls, tough love girlfriend push to do something better for themselves, to fight for themselves, to understand that like placing boundaries and being selfish for your own success, for your self-worth is important and necessary to grow. This is for my girlies going through breakups. This is for the girls that just need to hear the hard thing, because you deserve more than the bare minimum. And if we're speaking about relationships solely here, your partner, your person that you choose is just a reflection of how you feel about yourself. And with that, I'm going to let that sink in, and I'll see you in the episode. Girl, stop talking. All the shit that people are thinking but not saying. I'm not even like drunk. I've just been like drinking. Are you still talking? Girl, stop talking. This episode is brought to you by all my ex-boyfriends. Hi, if you're listening to this and we dated in the past, if we have a child together, if we went on any Tinder dates, if we were DMing me online, this episode, these stories are probably about you. Thanks for giving me all of the content I need to help other people, because I wouldn't be here giving this advice if I didn't go through the shit. And with that, I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Happy fucking Monday, bitches. Are you ready? I am so excited to be back and on track and on schedule. Look at me go, girl. Before we get into the advice, the tough love and the advice while I hold your hand, I wanted to share some of my stories on when I was given the bare minimum and I quite literally thought this man was heaven sent. He has behavior and emotional growth and knowledge. And I just, it was a big fat fucking lie. We live and we learn, okay? And I'm going to share my stories because you are not alone, sister, okay? This is how we quite literally start to pick better people, is we learn that we don't deserve the bare minimum. We deserve to be extra. We deserve to be ourselves and the fullest version of ourselves, because nobody should be dimming your light, sister. So I'm going to take this back to a story about my crazy ex. If you've been following the show, you know a handful of this story. You can go back and listen to Who's the Crazy Ex Now or Desperate for Love. That kind of gives you some insight of this specific traumatic relationship that I had gone through. And this was quite literally, the bar was so fucking low. I said it. I set the bar so fucking low. It was not even the bare minimum. It was like below bare minimum, okay? And the first story that comes to my head is, I remember when we first started dating and I went out and was talking with one of my clients at the time, and I was supposed to have plans with this guy. And my client was doing her lashes and she's like, we should go out, like, let's go get a drink after this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, I had plans with this guy. Let me text him and see if I can move some things around. Now, while I was in that beginning stages of that relationship, my previous ex, did not allow me or tried to stop me from having relationships with my friends or to like hang out with them solo. And it was the typical, I don't trust your friends. It's not that I don't trust you. I don't trust your friends. Okay. And so when I started dating this guy, of course, our behavior is great in the very beginning. I texted him and I was like, hey, my client wants to go get drinks after work. Can we meet a little later? Or do you want to come meet us like a little later for drinks? And he texted me back right away and was like, oh no, babe, like, that's fine. Go have fun with your friends. Like, we can meet up later. If we need to reschedule, that's totally fine. Like, I have no problem. And I remember thinking in that moment, oh my God, that was so easy. Because I remember in those moments I would have anxiety because of the past trauma of being like, this is going to start a fight. I have to walk on eggshells. Anytime I want to hang out with my friends, it's a big deal. Like, that's crazy, right? And I so vividly remember going to hang out with my girlfriend at Dos Gringos, which I used to work there back in the day. If you know, you know. If you've been following me that long, thank you. I went and met up with her, and shout out Montana, girl, love you, girl. And I remember meeting up with her and talking to her about this guy. I'm dating this new guy. Look at this is who he is. And I even remember telling her, like, I moved these plans around and I'm like feeling anxious about it because, like, what if he gets mad? What if he gets upset? And I was with her at the table when he was like, no, have fun with your friends. We can meet up later. And I remember being like, oh, weight lifted off my shoulders, showed her the text message. And I vividly remember even telling her, like, this is so crazy. Like, he seems like such a good guy because my last man, this was like a big problem in our relationship. And like saying this now, like, that is so wild that I thought this guy who was giving me the bare minimum of course you can go hang out with your friends, that's not a problem. And I thought that was extreme effort. I thought that was a life-changing opportunity. I thought this was, wow, emotionally mature, like putting this man on a pedestal, which come to find out that pedestal crumbled fast. But of course it did, because if you are talking to someone or you're in a relationship or you're married and your partner is saying, giving you a hard time for hanging out with your friends, I'm sorry, girlfriend. And this may, this episode may trigger you. Trigger warning. This episode may trigger you. You may get defensive. You may be upset because you may not want to hear the truth. You may not want to hold this person accountable. You may not want to hold yourself accountable for allowing this behavior. If your significant other is giving you a hard time about hanging out with your friends, this is a bare minimum act. You are your own person. You are an adult. You are allowed to have relationships outside of your relationship. I say it all the time and I'll say it again. There are three things in this relationship: you, your partner, and your relationship. Having solo time and things to do outside of your relationship is normal and it is healthy. Like, it seems simple me saying this now, but I know some of you are out there being like, fuck, my man does not like it when I hang out with this friend. Anytime I like bring it up, I get anxious. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. It's going to cause a problem in our relationship. Or raise your hand. How many of you have decided to like go out of your way to not hang out with your friends so that it doesn't cause problems in your relationship? Can I get an amen? Because I've been there too. And I'm sorry, but this relationship is not for you because you're allowed to have a life. Okay? So I want to get into, why do we accept the bare minimum? Listen carefully, because I'm going to hit you hard and fast, just like that fuckboy in your DMs before you tell him you're not interested. Okay? You might get mad. I might get mad. No. We accept the bare minimum because we are struggling with our own insecurities. We are struggling with the fear of being alone. We are struggling with a timeline of, I'm already this age and I don't have XYZ. We struggle with the pressure that society puts us on as far as like this roadmap of where we're supposed to be. And those fears are quite literally what is holding you back from finding the person that is truly meant for you. If you are stuck in a relationship and you have those thoughts, that inner thought, your intuition in the back of your head saying, this is not my guy. I don't like the way he makes me feel. I don't feel safe talking to him. He's attacks me when I try to communicate my feelings. If you are feeling this type of way, you are sitting in this moment of accepting the bare minimum. And going back to what I said before this episode started is, what did I say? The partner that you pick is a direct reflection of how you feel about yourself. And I just want to validate everyone because I know what it feels like to be stuck in a relationship that you know in your heart isn't meant for you. You're looking at your partner and you're like, I can't see myself having kids with this person. I can't see myself introducing this person to my family, or I'm embarrassed to be around them. These are like little signs that inner you is telling you that this is not your person. And I know it can be so difficult to like stick up for yourself and create some boundaries. First of all, if you are in an unhealthy relationship and try to create boundaries, this is going to be the hardest thing that you ever have to do. And this can be a whole separate episode, but creating boundaries in a relationship that doesn't serve you is quite literally, in my opinion, harder than just leaving the relationship, because you are stuck in this vision of hope that this person is going to show up for you the way that they showed up for you in the beginning. You're clinging on to that hope so hard when how many times can you think right now on how many times can you count on your hand that when you think about this person, all you think about is the negative things that they have done and not the positive ways that they have supported you? Because looking back on what some of my relationships, I remember, and I think I've said this before, but I remember one of my relationships would tell me like, well, I love you. And I would say it back, I love you too. And then he would ask me, this actually happened with two people in my life. He would ask me, well, what do you love about me? And I'd sit there and immediately I could think of 7 to 10 reasons of things that I did not love about him. And I struggled to find the reasons that I did. And this caused turmoil in my relationships because I'm already dealing with an insecure man. And then I can't tell this man why I love him. And then the cheating scandal rumors come about and the insecurities get harder and you are walking on more glass. And I just think that these little signs they're so much bigger because we deserve so much more than just someone sleeping in our bed at the end of the day. You deserve someone that is understanding, caring, loving, that will listen to the way you're feeling without judging you. You know, someone that's gonna show up for you, and even if they're upset, they're not gonna belittle you. They're not gonna call you names. They're not gonna use like the experiences that hurt them to attack you in other moments of your life, in other arguments. All of those signs are signs. They're red flags to listen to. Whether this person isn't emotionally capable of having a relationship, doesn't even really like you, or you're dealing with the worst, like toxic, narcissistic people, like you have to listen to the signs that are being shown because you are deserving of someone that treats you right, that listens, that is caring, that even though they're upset, they're not going to hurt you or do vindictive things to make you feel worse than they're feeling. You deserve a partner that is going to go to therapy if you have problems. Just that in itself, I would never, in this stage of my life, and I've done a lot of growing and learning and lessons, and I've repeated the lessons multiple times, but now in this stage of my life, if I found myself in a relationship where I had problems, but I genuinely loved this person and I wanted to make it work, and they refused to go to therapy, I wouldn't be with that person. I would have to hold that for myself and leave that relationship, not as an ultimatum, but because if someone isn't willing to take the steps to work on your relationship by someone saying, I'm not going to therapy, I don't need that, they're basically telling you that they don't care to work on their relationship. They don't care to work on themselves, to show up better for themselves, to show up better for you, to show up better together. And so like for me, that's a bare fucking minimum. If you're not going to go to therapy, if you're not going to be open to bettering yourself, you're giving me the bare minimum, and I know that I deserve more than that. a lot of times we romanticize our partners or the people that we're dating and our relationships because they start out so perfect and we have all those good like chemicals and feelings coming up and the dopamine and the serotonin. And then we soon realize, because it happens really quick, someone starts showing you who they truly are as a person. And you're like, well, what about this person that you used to be? What about that person that I met 3 months ago? And it's like, no, girl, the person that they're showing you right now is who they actually are. And like that romanticizing that relationship and clinging on to that hope is a silent killer because you are putting all your time and energy and effort into someone for hope. I want to tell you a story, which I don't think I've ever shared this story before. It's very personal, and I normally don't share stories specifically that involve my son just out of respect for him. But I do feel like this is an opportunity to learn from an experience that I'm comfortable with. And in the relationship that I had with my son's dad, it wasn't a healthy relationship by any means. We were young. I was 17 and pregnant. We seriously only dated for 3.5 or 4 months before I got pregnant. And in those 3.5 or 4 months, that was like, it was 3 months of this person that thought I was in love with. And then I got pregnant and I stayed in that relationship the entirety of the pregnancy because of that hope. So much so that before I found out I was having a boy, if I was having a daughter, I wanted to name her Hope. Because that hope meant so much to me that like this relationship that would work out, that I would have a family and a partner that would show up for me in the way that I wanted to show up, and that we were creating something like this life together, this fairy tale, this perfect, like perfectly imperfect timeline that I had unintentionally set up for myself. And so much so that I clung on to those first 3 months for, another 6 months, a full pregnancy, just to find out that 30 days after my son went by, I was doing it all on my own and miserable in my relationship. And it took 30 days of me being a single mom within a relationship to make the decision to be happy. Because I'm like, why am I doing this anymore? I'm not happy. There is no hope. The hope is gone. The hope has left the building. And I just couldn't be unhappy with this beautiful blessing in my life anymore. And side note, when I told him I wanted to, if we had a girl, I wanted to name her Hope, he was like, you're not naming our child that. And I just was like, you don't get to make any of the decisions. But I just want to close that out with the longer you stay in these bare minimum relationships, the longer it's going to take for you to find your real person. You are barely holding the door open for someone else to walk through it. I mean, right now the door is closed. If you are hung up on an ex, you're trying to leave a situation and you keep going back to them, you're putting all of this energy, you're still putting energy into it, and you're not allowing the space and the growth for someone new to come in. You're quite literally subconsciously closed off to better opportunities when you're holding the negativity, the chasing, the fear, the exhaustion, the hope, the what should we call it? Not just, because hope can be okay, but when you're holding these things so tightly and holding on to something that you're meant to let go, when you let that go, it's gonna hurt for a little while. I promise you, you're only making space for something better. Okay, so how do we ask for more? Whether you're in a relationship or you're dating, you're out there in the streets, girl. Praise be. We're gonna normalize having standards, okay? And I'm gonna give you guys some homework. I hope you do this. If you feel comfortable sharing, tag me on the Girl Stop Talking Pod on Instagram or just DM me. I want to see. I want to hype you up. I want to give you your flowers. We're going to normalize having these standards, and we're going to go over communicating some of these boundaries without feeling guilty, okay? We have a lot more to go through, so I'm not going to spend a whole time on this, but I will do another boundaries episode because I think it is so important. So right now, your homework, what I want you to do, or after you listen to this episode, whether you're dating or you're in a relationship that you feel like you can have better communication, I want you to get a pen and paper, and I want you to write down 3 to 5 boundaries. A boundary is something that you yourself are not willing to accept, okay? So I think boundaries can be miscommunicated with ultimatums very easily, and I just want to really prioritize and want you guys to understand that an ultimatum is making someone choose one of 2 things for you, but a boundary is, I'm doing this for me, and if you, like, how do I want to say this carefully? I am doing this for me, and if my boundaries are crossed, I'm going to act a certain way. Like, I'm going to be a certain way. I'm going to move in a way that holds me accountable for the boundary that I set. It has to do with you, not the other person. Although they should be respecting them, they shouldn't be, like, it shouldn't be a vindictive punishment. Like, you have to do this or I'm leaving you. That's an ultimatum, okay? A boundary is like, if we're in an argument, my boundary is that I will not be cussed at during our arguments. And how you communicate that is, I feel like I'm struggling with this a little bit, but hopefully it's coming across clear. You want to communicate that in a way where it's like, once you write down your boundaries, you have a conversation with your partner, and this is for my relationship girlies, you got to talk to your partner and start having open communication about these things, and that's a whole other thing in itself. But I feel like the way that they should be brought up is, if you're in an argument, you take a breath, step back, and you say to your partner, hey, I know we're both upset. I don't appreciate being cussed at. And I think we should take a moment to cool down and then come back to this conversation. That is leading with empathy, leading with love, and leading with understanding, and sticking to your boundaries of, I'm not going to let this person be upset and cuss at me while we're arguing. And it can be said in those ways. You can communicate in them a way where they're not being attacked. And if your partner can't handle that and they're like, don't you fucking walk away from me and blah, blah, blah. Girl, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky, okay? I want you to write down 3 to 5 boundaries. That was just one example. Write them down. Make sure you're saying them in present tense. Use I statements. And for my dating girlies, I feel like this will be an easier thing for you, and you'll probably have like a list of 10. What are things that you are not willing to accept in the dating world? I am not willing to accept someone who doesn't go out of their way to make sure I'm home safe. I'm not willing to accept someone that isn't going to make me feel like I'm wanted. I'm not willing to accept someone that is giving me the bare minimum. And then I encourage you to maybe dig a little deeper. Well, what are those bare minimums? What are your red flags in a relationship? Pen to paper, write it down. Now that you've written your boundaries down, or maybe you're doing it after the episode, we're going to talk about how to communicate these boundaries. And first, I'm going to talk about my girls who are dating. I want you to look at that list, and when you are actively dating, if you are on, I don't care if you're on the first date, I don't care if you're on the 6th date, if you want to find someone that is going to treat you the way you want to be treated, you need to keep these boundaries folded and in your pocket, okay? If someone crosses a boundary, they get one chance. One chance. You must communicate this boundary clearly. If they do it again, you stop dating that man or that girl or that person. They are done. Okay? Especially if it's a big one. And I don't know what your boundaries are going to be, but you need to make sure you're communicating that clearly. If someone crosses a boundary, you sit them down and you have to communicate it with them. Like, well, let's talk about that. How do we communicate our boundaries? This comes with open communication. You have to tell people how you want to be treated. And if they are good people, they will be apologetic, they will empathize, they will understand. If they do all of those things and they so blatantly cross your boundary again, we're done. You're done. Do you hear me? You're done. He's not worth it. I want you to look at me in the eyes when I'm saying this to you. If you're listening to this, go watch me on YouTube, girl, because this is how you set the standard. You hold yourself accountable for your boundaries. This is a working thing together. You have to take accountability. You know why I ended up in all these shitty relationships? So much so to the point where I feared losing my life was because I didn't stand up for myself. I didn't create enough boundaries. I was so desperate for love that I let anyone lay next to me. And for that, I was actually punished because I didn't feel myself like I was worthy or that I could find someone that would give me everything that I need. I was settling. I was giving myself the bare minimum because I thought just having someone I could call my boyfriend would make me happy. And that is not how it works. I so badly wish that I had the boundaries that I had wrote down because coming out of my most crazy toxic relationship, I actually share, and I don't know when the episode's coming out, but I share my full story and its entirety on the Don't Be Shady podcast. And you basically hear everything start to finish about my most crazy relationship. And in that relationship, after, which I did talk about this in those past episodes that I talked about, so go listen to those, my ex smashed the windshield to my car with his hand because he didn't want me to leave. And after that day, I broke up with him and I ended up kind of trying to work it out because, they always come back and say, I didn't mean to, and I was drunk, and I'm so sorry, and that'll never happen again, blah, 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 blah. And even though in my heart I felt icky about it, it was to the point where I can't tell people close to me in my life about this scenario because they'd be like, Tatum, what the fuck are you doing? And I even said to myself, Tatum, what the fuck are you doing? But you know what I did? I did that exercise that I just told you to do. I wrote down my boundaries. I wrote down 8 things and I told him, we need to talk because this is what I'm no longer willing to accept. I was willing to give this person, crazy enough, 1 second chance. There had been multiple chances, but at that point I was whatever. I'm not making excuses. I shouldn't have done it. I wrote my boundaries down on paper, and this is what had me more level-headed. And from what I could remember, there was a couple. It was, one of my boundaries is I'm allowed to hang out. I want to have relationships with my friends, for one. There was a bunch, but I can't remember all of them. And the other one was that he can no longer sleep over at our house. Or I had a roommate at the time as well. He can no longer sleep over at our house. He doesn't live here and he needs to sleep at his house. And these boundaries were I wanted him to prove that he was actually going to change because it was so toxic in this whirlwind of chaos already. And then the third one was we can no longer hang out or he can no longer be around when I have my son. And I told him to his face, I'm like, I need to start creating distance between you and my child because if this doesn't work out, I don't want my child to be attached to you anymore. And I sat him down and I'm like, we need to talk and these are my boundaries. And he said, okay. And then it took 7 days, 7, for him to cross my boundaries. And I knew, and I had already had it in my heart that if these things get crossed, that is it. That is the last thing. He's already shown erratic behavior, physical abuse, emotional abuse, crossing my boundaries after having this conversation. And I knew, I was like, They are done. You cross them. And I told him this, which was probably kind of more of an ultimatum, but whatever. It was so bad at this point, it didn't even matter. I was like, if my boundaries get crossed, I will no longer be in this relationship. Actually, that's not an ultimatum. That was beautifully said. That is me taking accountability for my feelings, my boundaries, my actions. It's not saying you have to do this or this will happen. It's, I am doing this for me. This is what I deserve. I'm sticking up for myself. It took 7 days. He crossed one of those things and I was like, we're done. I'm done with this. And the rest of that story was there. We were not done. Let me just say that. That actually prolonged to a court case over the next year and a half, but that's a story for another time. Before I go into this listener question, I just want to say, girlfriend, thank you so much for writing in. I feel honored that you respect my opinion and advice enough to share this scenario with me, and I feel like it's perfect for this episode. This is the first listener question that I have got without having to prompt for it, and I am just so grateful to be in this position. This listener wrote in and she said, my husband keeps putting pressure on me to either have kids with him or to become a swinger couple. I'm not interested in having an open marriage, and I can't go forward with the kids idea while he consistently pressures, belittles me, and gives me ultimatums. I felt so lost and hopeless. I love him so much and have spent many years with him. He also threatens divorce a lot. Any advice on what I should do? I've been going to therapy, but it's hard for me to see the situation clearly. Thank you and love the show. Man, I think I just want to start by saying that I understand how difficult this could be for you. I just want to validate you and your feelings. You didn't say how long or how many years you guys have been together, but you did say you've been together for a long time and you love him, and you've, to the point where you guys have gotten married, you've created a life together, and I can't imagine being in this position. So I want to honor all of your feelings with that. And with that being said, quite literally, your husband also has the same vows, the same expectations, that he should be showing up and committed to you and loving you the same way that you're loving him. You did say that he constantly pressures you, he belittles you, gives you ultimatums, and threatens divorce. Honestly, girl, and maybe you do want to hear this, and maybe that's why you wrote in. So I'm just going to be so honest, okay? I'm going to talk to you as if I would talk to any one of my friends. That is a huge red flag. This person is supposed to love you, care for you, be understanding, and my hope in all relationships, this could be a lack of consistent communication. This needs to be the communication needs to start happening in a better way. Whether you're trying your best, it doesn't sound like he's trying to communicate with you in a positive way, and I'm only getting one side of the story, so I want to hold space for that as well. But I do not like the things that you said in this message. You shouldn't feel pressured to have kids, and you shouldn't be punished for that. I'm glad you're in therapy. This is definitely something that you need to be talking to your therapist about, and hopefully your therapist is able to give you tools. I would encourage that if you want this relationship to work, I would encourage both of you to go to couples counseling. And like I said earlier, if your husband is not willing to better your guys' communication in your relationship, I think you really need to take some things into consideration. If he's not willing to go to therapy, that's also a huge red flag, because someone that's trying to force you into having children, it doesn't get easier when the kids are involved. It quite literally gets harder. You're at a place, and I'm just going to say worst case scenario. You are at a place right now where you could start over. You could leave this marriage. You could start a new life, and you would have no ties to this person. Putting children in the mix, then you are forever tied. It's harder to leave. You end up spending more time in a situation that you know in your head you shouldn't be in because you know you deserve better. I think it's a horrible idea to open the marriage. It is very clear that you guys are not hearing each other, and there may not even be there. It doesn't sound like there is proper communication. I'm not sure on both ends or just on his end, but opening the marriage and having kids, you guys need to be so locked in. The trust needs to be 100%. The communication needs to be 100%, because both of those things create chaotic lives. I don't like that there's belittling and all these ultimatums. There's 4 killers of relationships, and it's called the 4 horsemen of relationships. And each one of those things is something that sounds like is currently happening right now. Knowledge is power. So looking that up and getting more knowledge. And I just think the best advice that I could give you is talk to your therapist and see what she thinks. And I would encourage to open the conversation around you and your husband going to couples therapy. I think the best way that you could show up and communicate that is, babe, I hear you. I know you want kids. You want to step into this next journey of our relationship. And I don't know if you want kids or if you just don't want them because of everything else that's going on. So let's say you do want kids. I want kids. I want to have children with you. And I feel like our communication needs to be stronger before we do those things. I don't feel comfortable in this point going into having children or opening up our marriage when our communication feels off. And you can say, use I statements. I don't feel safe communicating my feelings to you. I don't feel comfortable having children when you are throwing ultimatums of divorce. When you use I statements, it takes away the defensiveness in how the person reacts. Now, people are still reactive. But when you say, I feel when you, is the best way to engage that conversation. I think it would be good to say, I'm open to stepping into the idea of having kids, and I want to take those next steps with you, but I need to feel safe in knowing that we're not going to get divorced. I need to feel safe in knowing that we have better communication, because throwing a kid into the mix is just going to turn our lives upside down. And I feel it would be best if we went to couples counseling together so that we can navigate this relationship and the path forward, open, honest, and showing up in the way that we both need to show up for each other. And we're going to end that there because I felt like that was slay. Girlfriend, my heart goes out to you. If you want to talk about this more, DM me. This is all anonymous. I will never mention your name or anything, but I want you to know that I am here for you. Don't stop DMing and asking questions. Please keep writing in. I love being able to be a sounding light and give you guys advice. And I honestly feel honored and grateful. And I just want you to know, girl, that my heart is going out to you. And I want to know what happens. Let me know. So let's keep in touch. Whether you want to keep it anonymous, write in again. I would absolutely love to see where it goes from here. Okay, now we're going to play a little game. Okay, bare minimum or effort. I did a poll on Instagram and you guys never disappoint. So planning a date. 39% of you said bare minimum, 61% said effort. I think it's so interesting, and whether you're dating or in a relationship, I think these bare minimum or effort could be answered in 2 different ways. Says Netflix and chill. 86% bare minimum. 14% said effort. Girl, that's the bare minimum. Okay, picks up the check. In my opinion, bare minimum. You guys also voted 59% the same. Buys you a drink at the bar. In my opinion, I think this shows effort. I think if you're dating and you expect someone to buy your drink at the bar, it's like, girl, don't go to the bar. You should have your own money to buy drinks. You know what I mean? 78% of you said it's the bare minimum that someone buys you a drink at the bar. Offers to pick you up. I think dating, this is effort. I think if you're in a relationship, this is the bare minimum. 62% of you said effort. Pays for your ride there or home. 67% effort. I agree. I think in any situation, dating or relationship, this is a man showing that he is putting an effort into the relationship. 33% said bare minimum. Texts you every day. This shows effort. 56% of you said effort. 44 bare minimum. Calls you to check in. 85% of you say effort. I love this. If you are dating and someone calls you to check in, I totally say this is effort. For me personally, I'd rather a phone call than a text message. So in my relationship, I'm like, this is the bare minimum. Remembers your food or drink order. 93% of you say effort. Yes, I love that. If you're dating and someone's going out of your way and shows up with like the coffee that you love or your Chipotle order, they are putting in that effort. They're listening to you and they're learning about you. And we love that. Introduces you to friends or family. If you're single, effort. 84% of you said effort. I think if you are in a committed relationship, this is the bare minimum, okay? If someone says, you're my girlfriend, I see a life with you, and you haven't met their family, like, ooh, spooky. Okay, buys you gifts. This is effort, and 84% of you agree. Picking up around the house. 74% of you say bare minimum. I agree. If you are in a committed relationship, this is just clean up after yourself. Hello? That basically wraps up this week's episode. If you are new here, thanks for listening. I'm having so much fun doing these dating and relationship episodes. If you have any relationship questions that you would like advice for, write them in. You can also, if you want toxic advice, just let me know. Add a little detail in there. I got you on that too. I would love for you guys to subscribe to the YouTube at Girl Stop Talking Podcast on YouTube. The Instagram is at Girl Stop Talking Pod, and my personal Instagram is Tatum Zoe, 3 E's. Thanks for listening to this episode, and we will see you next fucking Monday, bitches.
Are you still talking? Girl, stop talking.